You think she's a good girl, but once you get to know her, you realize she's everything. She's crazy, she's funny, she's honest, and you'll never know what she'll do next.
Oh, I'm so glad you came back. This is amazing. You're not going to believe who I have here today. Well, of course, I have my tech team and my producer behind the camera, James Henderson. We're going to talk about him first. James, do you want to show your picture on the camera?
I do.
There you are. And then I also have Yane Diaz, and she is amazing. Let me tell you how I met her. This is podcast number 67, if anybody's keeping count. I know I have a lot more videos on YouTube, but when I do the sit-down podcast like this, I call it a number. So this is number 67. And Yane and I met at the recent TED Talk. So if you follow me, you'll know that I went over there to Miami because I want to get a TED Talk. And so that's how we started talking. She was this pretty little blonde sitting over in the corner by herself. And I just went up. I'm trying, I work the room, trying to get to know everybody I can because I want to get a TED Talk. And I know that's how I'm going to do it, is by getting to know as many people as I can. So I saw Yane over there and we started talking and we found out we had all this stuff in common. And then she tells me, I had a TED Talk. I'm like, what? You had a TED Talk? Where'd you do your TED Talk? She says, Mexico, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about it, Yane.
So
welcome.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you for having me.
We already did a short video on Instagram. I'm like, this is amazing. I feel like-mindedness here.
Totally. There's definitely a synergy. And what I love is that she literally had her Wi-Fi activated when she picked me out from a rather large crowd of people who were attending the TEDx Doral talk. And so my TEDx story is actually one of a lot of divine providence, because I had in my vision when I was about 21 years old, I started to listen to TED Talks of all kinds.
That's amazing.
And I became very, very obsessed with TED Talks. And I told myself then, one day I'm going to give a TED Talk. One day, I think this was around 2013 or so. I'm like, one day I'm going to give a TED Talk. And I didn't know about what. I was working in corporate, marketing, sales, all of that. And I just said, I'm going to give one. And lo and behold, 10 years later, I was offered the opportunity to give a TEDx talk. Amazing. And it was in Coatzacoalcos, Veracruz, Mexico.
You were offered it. Where were you offered it?
So I developed this concept.
Let's get down to the nitty gritty.
How did you get
the TED Talk?
I know she wants to know.
I think I already heard it, but I want to tell you guys. So
yeah.
I didn't even know getting a TED Talk was a thing until I met James here, who got me into the speaking circuit. And so now I'm all over.
You're gonna get yours. You're gonna get yours soon. I know. So basically, I did a lot of inner work throughout my youth. I went in a nutshell. I went from working in corporate, burning out, getting gastritis, recurrent headaches, like gastritis to the point that water was burning me going down. Gastritis. Yes. And what I realized, without getting into too many details, what I realized is that my dis-ease, my opposite of well-being, was coming from underlying anxiety, high performance anxiety that I was working through. Always been a perfectionist, high achiever. I always want to do excellent work.
Of course.
And I was in an industry that was no longer, or a job that was no longer in alignment with who I wanted to be and how I wanted to show up in the world. So in a nutshell, that was why I was having those issues. So when I realized that, and I realized that anxiety, stress, recurrent experience on a recurrent basis were the root of disease, I created this concept named Pazitud. Pazitud means attitude of peace. And more than a concept, is really my lifestyle. It's a philosophy.
Is that in the dictionary yet?
No, but I hope it will be one day.
I heard of people getting words in the dictionary.
I hope it will be one day, because ultimately it's really a mindset and a perspective on life that you adopt to really go through life and work and just everything in between with the best possible internal state you can harness, right? And so because of that concept, it got a lot of traction in especially the Spanish-speaking world, and during the pandemic. And
another thing I didn't even say yet is that Yane is from Cuba. I don't know if you hear a little accent there.
Mm-hmm.
I hear a little bit of an accent.
Yeah, I definily have an accent.
And you moved to Miami when you were 11.
11,
right?
Yeah, good memory. I have an accent also because I speak 4 languages. So I'm one of those people that accents just just kind of like stick to me. And so in essence, that Pazitud concept was what got me into, let's say, the eye of somebody who puts together TED Talks. And so they invited me.
Wow, that's amazing. So do you have any advice for someone who's looking for a TED Talk, what to do?
Absolutely. So there's many TEDx events. These are under the TED umbrella. They're independently organized. And if your talk is really awesome, you could end up in the TED main stage from your TEDx talk. So what I would advise is you go look at the different TEDx events that are near you. It could be in your city, it could be in a nearby city, anywhere, and start going to them, start getting to know the organizers and everything. Because one thing that TEDx does have is they look for themes every year. So every year there's a particular angle that they're looking to attract for the TED Talks, the TEDx Talks. And so you have to be mindful of that as well. And then in addition to that, you do need to have an idea worth spreading. Okay. When I was doing my TED Talk, I didn't realize there were so many rules. I mean, I didn't have an issue with that, but there were so many rules for you to give a TED Talk.
Wow.
Where you have to have an idea worth spreading. It cannot be self-promotional. You have to like really have that mindset of adding some type of value. Right? Yeah, different, something refreshing.
And how many times did you apply? I've heard of some people applying as many as like 15 times.
Just that one. I think it was one of those things that it was a time.
This girl's a winner. She knows how to listen to her what she says. I'm taking notes.
I learned from a lot of people. I definitely didn't get here by myself. So I've had countless mentors that I've met in person, others that I have learned from virtually and through different courses and seminars. And so there's no way I would be here today without literally a whole community of people. So thank you, Tracy, for being part of them.
Well, and I found her just as I do. She stood out to me. But anyway, well, tell me a little bit about the migration that you went through, the cultural transition, and how that shaped the way you see life and success. When you moved from Cuba to Miami when you were 11.
Yeah.
Like, did you move with both parents?
Yes, thankfully, both of my parents. I'm an only child, so it's just the three of us.
Wow, that's a whole other show.
Yeah,
only child.
Only child. Definitely spoiled, but not rotten.
Clearly,
not a brat.
Clearly, obviously.
Yeah, but so my parents, thankfully, to this day, they're still together. They're young parents. They're in their 50s. And so when we left Cuba, for me, it was not such a bad adjustment because I was with mom and dad. I think it was harder on my dad. But it was still hard for me when it comes to my integration into the school, for example. Being the straight A student that I always was back in Cuba, never ever got anything lower than 100 because they do the numerical grading over there. And then all of a sudden I get here, I don't speak any English. And I remember these were the times before we had internet, before we had Google Translate, I should say. And I remember my mom would sit down with me because I would be crying, trying to do my language arts homework. And my mom would sit with me with a dictionary, word for word, trying to help me because she saw me so stressed out. So that was a challenging part of the transition. But I would say probably the transitional component that's the hardest is the fact that you grow up between two worlds, right? And sometimes that creates a little bit of an identity crisis where it's like, okay, but I'm not 100% from Cuba. I'm not 100% from United States. So where do I fit in? Like my parents want me to be a lawyer, and that's basically how I prepare myself.
Have you been back to Cuba since you moved?
I had since 2007. I came 99, and then I went back 2 times. The last time was 2007.
I went in 2000, I believe 23, and I could send you that
podcast.
I did a podcast on it. I did it 2023.
Wow, you went right after the pandemic.
Right after my dad died, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And by yourself?
I was invited. It was these crazy things that happened after my dad passed, where I started getting invited. I did a couple podcasts. I was invited first to Transylvania over Halloween. And then the next week I was invited to Cuba. It was just like 2 crazy, wonderful things that just happened because I'm being Tracy. I can't help it. I'm just being Tracy. And these things pop up, and so
what was your
podcast?
Yeah, I'm gonna hear the podcast just real quick. Like, what was your biggest, most salient impression of Cuba?
Takeaway. Okay, my takeaway was that it's a city, a country, like still in time in the 50s. It's like lost in time. That would be my takeaway. Mm-hmm. Would that be valid? Would you say?
100%. It's probably, it might be the only thing.
People are like, do you want to go back? I'm like, well, not really quickly. If I go back, I want to be staying at like, I can't remember the name of the hotel. It was like the Opus Hotel or the Pearl, something like that. I'm like, that's where I want to be staying. The place we finally found at the end of the week where you had to use a credit card from another country, like that. You couldn't use any cash anywhere. So
yeah.
That's, I mean, it was a little bit of a shocker. It was a shocker.
I don't recommend it today. So if you're watching this, I would say stay away from going to Cuba. And the reason why is because right now there's a lot of epidemics going on. There's the people are really having a hard time, very, very hard time. And so there's no food, their immunities are down, and electricity is scarce and all of that. But the biggest thing is there's a lot of diseases going around. So I would say stay away if you can for the time being.
Okay, yeah. Interesting. All right, well, that's on a whole nother level there. We didn't even need to talk about that. But anyway, so you said work is love made visible. What does that mean to you personally?
To me personally, it's literally part of my mission because I lived what it feels like when you're working out of alignment with what you love, with your nature, right? So I mentioned earlier that I had gastritis, really debilitating gastritis, headaches, and more than that, I had this feeling of emptiness. It's like it didn't make any sense because I was successful by most people's definition of success, right? What does that mean? Usually for most people is you have an amazing job. I'm in my early 20s and I'm making 6 figures. I'm traveling all over South America. Very young, a woman, and I am literally teaching people who are almost twice as old as me. And so you think like, oh, wow, that's a dream career, right? And whereas it was fun for a while, I felt I had this feeling of emptiness. Like, yeah, but this is not it, right. This is not really what I love. The environment, it's not something that I wanted. And so in essence, what I realized is, gosh, you got to really love the work that you do. Like you have to love the work that you do. And if you're really in alignment with who you're here to be, if you're in alignment with the service you came here to give, it's just a beautiful environment within. You have that inner peace going on, you have the joy going on, you have all the love going on, and it's all created internally first, and then you can share it. And so that's why work is love made visible, which, by the way, it's a quote from one of my favorite poets, Khalil Gibran, is significant to me because part of my mission is to help people live and work better and to find that level of alignment with, who am I really, right? Getting clarity about who I am, what do I love, what am I here for, and how can I align work with my essence and still be abundant, so that's why it's significant.
So now, before the show here, I got a little bit of a tutorial on what Yane does, and she specializes. I said it wrong when I made a video short, but she specializes in AI. I mixed it up with IT. That's not the same.
It's part of IT because IT is just technology, right?
She didn't make me reshoot my video.
No, it's not necessary.
For this show, she wanted to make sure I knew. She does AI. She specializes in AI, EI, which is emotional intelligence, and as well as spiritual intelligence. Do you want to tell us about that?
Absolutely. That's probably one of my biggest passions because AI.
Yeah, how did that become your passion? Tell me.
Okay, so I went from I grew up in Cuba. Cuba, if a lot of you may not be familiar with this,
you went to
for a lot of time. Yeah, I grew up there.
Did you go to college there?
No, up until 11. At 11, I moved here. So in Cuba, the way we grew up during that time was without religion, almost like the leader of the country was the God, basically. And so for a good chunk, religion was banned. So I didn't really grow up with any sort of, education in things like that. And today I don't consider myself a religious person. I'm highly spiritual, but this is where this becomes important for me. Throughout my journey, I was more of so at some point I was atheist, at some point I was agnostic, at some point, and then I started to open up my understanding that, oh my goodness, actually, yes, there is higher power. There are
Sure.
forces that are always there available to support us when we actually nurture and nourish the spiritual side of who we are as humans. When I realized that we really are, I mean, yes, we have a body, this is matter, but we're really spiritual beings having an experience, I say a human experience, right? In this three-dimensional matter-driven space, which we call Earth. So I like to call it the Earth School. And so for me personally, having this understanding, this awareness was a game changer in the way I went through life, right? And again, I respect absolutely every religion out there. I encourage people to have a spiritual practice, whatever it is that they choose, as long as it is rooted in love. And that's what I've learned, right? And so I learned that if we don't have nourishment in this spiritual side of our lives, it's really hard to manage stress, to manage anxiety, to navigate relationships, to navigate, the challenges. Because let's face it, being human is not an easy thing.
It's about beating the adversity. How did you do it?
Exactly. And I think the spiritual side of life, faith, and this understanding that you're not alone is crucial in being able to navigate this. So that's the spiritual side of life, and why I'm so interested in this, because for me personally, I've seen the results in how I feel and in the quality of life that I'm able to create. And so then emotional intelligence, why emotional intelligence? Because if you don't have an awareness of your emotions and a management of your emotions, you're just going through life on a reactive state. You're just going through life constantly imprisoned by conditioning, imprisoned by how other people think of you, things that happen outside of your control, right? And so I learned, actually, since I was 19, I went to a 10-day meditation retreat, Vipassana, and that's where I realized, wow, we have a crazy mind. This mind is crazy. You cannot believe everything your mind says. And so that's why emotional intelligence became such a focus. And when I went to build a tech startup in Gainesville, Florida, I was working with high school and college students, and I realized that they were cutting themselves. They were extremely anxious, more so than when I was in school. And I was like, goodness, if they just had the tools. And so ever since that time, I had a goal that I would do whatever I could to instill mandatory curriculums in school that would teach people since an early age how to manage their emotions. So that's where emotional intelligence comes in.
Okay.
And now artificial intelligence. So this is the hot topic of the world right now. The world as we knew it a couple of years ago has completely changed, and it would only continue to exponentially change. And that's because of advanced or generative artificial intelligence, soon to be general artificial intelligence, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so why the mix? I see AI used properly, okay, as the ultimate tool to help you get to know yourself, to help you become more emotionally intelligent, to help you understand yourself and other people if you use it correctly. And I cannot stress this enough, because just like you can use it to elevate your humanity, you can also use it to diminish it.
Sure.
Right? And that is a lot of the challenges that we're seeing today. So one of my biggest concerns is the youth, for example. We've just learned the impact that social media and the unregulated use of social media has had in youth, right? And we're seeing the results now. We have more anxiety than ever, more disconnection than ever. We have less hope than ever. And so a lot of that is attributed to the fact that a lot of the comparison that the social media brought forth for youth. And because their brains weren't fully formed, because their emotional intelligence wasn't fully, worked on, they just didn't know how to handle things. There's been, I don't know if you know this, but suicide is 2 or 3 leading cause of death in youth, right? The other one being drugs and overdoses. But it's crazy. So I don't want the same thing to happen. We've already seen it with social media. I want to make sure that I'm teaching people how to use AI consciously, how to use it to actually save up time with the things that don't really add any value to our day-to-day lives, to our humanity, right? And I think the biggest question that we are facing now in this new era that we're entering into is, what does it mean to be human? What does it actually mean to be human? When we're not having to be in survival, right? Trying to make ends meet and trying to like do the work or whatever, even if we hate it, because we got to pay the bills, right? When we no longer have to work so hard, what do we do, right? And that's where emotional intelligence comes in, spiritual intelligence comes in, which is, okay, so now let's put the time into something that really is the most important work that you're here to do, which is to navigate your human experience and design it how you want it, and hopefully in alignment with what the divine plan was for you, with your highest calling, whatever that might be for you. Right?
Okay. So now, how does someone start with this philosophy that you have here and the Pazitud that you have? How would someone, who may be going through some challenges in their life, it only matters how we see things. It doesn't matter if everybody else thinks it's a challenge, right? It only matters what you're going through and how it's affecting you. So how would someone start with this whole different philosophy that you have here? This amazing philosophy, uplifting.
I think awareness is probably the first step. I think that stopping for a second and noticing how you feel, being present in your body, being present in the moment, and just noticing how you feel is the first step, right? The second step is understanding that you are not your mind, understanding that you are not your emotions, understanding that you are not just this body, right? And understanding that you are also energy. And so when you're able to disassociate from the identity, whatever that is, that you have been creating for yourself, or that unconsciously on autopilot you have adopted because maybe that's how you grew up and somebody told you that that's what you needed to be, I would really encourage that pause and question, where am I coming from here? Is it my mind trying to play tricks on me? Is it my body? What is it? Is it society? Is it conditioning? What do I actually want? What would give me joy? And I think joy is important because especially when it comes to your work, especially when it comes to how you show up every day, joy is that energy that if you feel it, if you're connected to your joy, usually that is a way to know whether you're on the right path or not.
And no one else can make you happy. Only you can make you happy. It's a choice. You have to have a choice that you're going to make yourself happy, or that you're going to feel happiness and be happy, right?
Absolutely. And that's exactly actually what Pazitud is at a foundational level, is I will decide that I'm going to feel good. Okay, so what do you need in order to feel good? Okay, well, so first of all, how am I reacting to things? And what is the meaning that I'm going to give to what just happened? We cannot control the chaos. We cannot control the adversity. We're all going to go through adversity. But you know what? I will encourage you to adopt a positive perspective on adversity, which is thank you, adversity, because thanks to adversity is how we actually grow. And I'll give you a very simple example. Think about something that happened in your life that was very, very hard, and then you overcame. And now think about something that was easy for you. You succeeded. Maybe you won something. Maybe you did something and it was really easy and effortless. Which one do you remember more? Which one did you learn more from the most, right? And it tends to be usually the situations where something really hard and unwanted happened to you and how you navigated it. So adversity is a good thing. And the human experience,
I think it's important finding something to be grateful for in adversity, don't you?
Absolutely, 100%. Because
and it's really difficult. It's like Mrs. Kirk just said that she forgave the killer of her husband, and I heard people calling her out for that and saying, oh, then she must not have loved him, or she must be on the other side and she wanted this to happen. I mean, how horrible is that? This woman just rose above all this and found a way to be grateful and for not grateful, but just to forgive. And that's a huge step.
It's like they say, forgiving is divine, right?
It was her choice. It's her choice because she's not going to let that steal her happiness. Don't let other people steal your joy.
And I think I'm glad you brought that up. I wasn't familiar with the story. But what it sounds like is that at the end of the day, she chose to operate from love, not from fear, right? At the end of the day, the most primitive emotions that we have are love and fear. Fear, I think, arguably, probably even more so, because our brains are not designed to make us happy. Our brains are designed to keep us safe. So fear tends to lead the way, and we live in societies that are led by fear, not by love. And so with the example that you just gave, Tracy, you're choosing love. Actually, more than love, you're choosing compassion. And I think compassion is even a highest form of love, because it has this feeling that you want to take action, or you want to do something, but you really want the well-being of an other, right? Because we're all a big family, if you really think about it. We're all having a human experience on different levels, and there's absolutely no human experience without at least one more human in your life.
Right.
So I think that's wonderful that she was able to do that.
It's
and it's
amazing.
a decision.
It's amazing. I'm sure that was a very difficult moment for her, but that's important to her faith and to her, and that was important to her husband, Charlie. So I thought it was amazing. But anyway, so we're coming to the close here. I wanted to find out from you, what is your vision and legacy?
I love that question, by the way. Thank you for that. My vision is really to expand consciousness and to just let people know that whether you live a hell on earth or a heaven on earth, it's really up to you.
It's your choice.
It's your choice.
I agree.
It really is your choice. I have met people who have experienced the absolute worst of things that you can imagine in life. And if they're able to find gratitude, if they're able to create joy, and they're able to move through life with grace, there's no excuse, for anybody else. It's possible. I just want my legacy to be a life well lived. I want people to really enjoy their lives, because I think being here in this earth school, having this human experience, I think is a gift. I think it's a miracle, quite frankly, the fact that we even exist. And I think it would be a shame to not really live. There's a lot of people. It's like that saying, everybody dies when not everybody lives, right? There's a lot of people, a lot of us are going through life, not really living it. And it would be a shame to get to the end of it having wasted life. So that's what I would hope my legacy to be.
Well, thank you so much. We're going to ask James here if he has any questions for you. Sometimes he has big ones that come up.
And sometimes you just steal my thunder.
Oh!
Because, you see, I have it up there. I was prepared to ask you about that because it's on your website. Everybody dies, but not everybody lives. I was going to ask you to expound on that, but you already did that. So that's absolutely amazing. So since you didn't do that, I did realize that you did speak at a thing called I Love Teens. And you talked a lot about teens and the stuff that you did with the teens. So tell us just a little bit about that, and then we can move on to the real estate minute, since you stole my first question.
I love that.
And if you're still watching, subscribe to that channel. You're going to want to see more shows like this, and we want to be able to answer any questions you have for Yane. Just post your questions below. Also, be sure to give the video a like. We can have her come back and share it with someone that you think would get something out of this message, please. Okay.
Awesome. So that was actually a really fun conference that we did, organized by Isabel Borden. This is her project, I Love Teens, and she invited me to be a part of it. And so the age range was from 12 to 17. And it was really cool because when I got up there, because I'm also a singer, right? So I got up there and they just lit up the moment I started to talk about breath work, and I got them to get off of their chairs and, do some hoo-ha breathing exercises that I learned from Wim Hof. And we talked about anxiety. We talked about stress. And because they're relating so much to that conversation right now, because believe it or not, the youth right now are amazing. They have really elevated levels of consciousness. Mm-hmm. They just don't have the role models or enough role models, especially in some communities, right? So, for them to be like, oh my God, somebody gets it. Somebody understands. And not only that, but hey, it's fun to self-regulate. It's fun to do these things. So that was super fun. And then I sang for them. So
that's all about it. Wonderful. Okay, now we're the real estate minute. Sales of newly built single family homes jumped 20.5% higher in August and 3.3% in the South. The median new home sale price in the U.S. is $413,500. It's a buyer's market out there, you guys, and we're killing it here in Florida. So if you've got a realtor wherever you are, please use that realtor, get your information so that you can get the property of your dreams to buy, sell, invest. If you want to sell too, this is a great time because there's a lot of people out there looking. And if you don't have someone in your area, please reach out to me and I'd be happy to help you find a realtor, or if it's in my area of specialty, I'd be happy to help you myself. Does anyone else have anything more to add to today's wonderful show?
I just want to say thank you. Really. Thank you, Tracy, for inviting me. Thank you for creating this space, not just for me, but everybody else that comes here to share and giving us the opportunity to share. I think that's a real gift. And Pastor James, thank you so much. It's been really a pleasure to work with you and to get to know you as well.
James is a blessing to us all. Anyway, thank you so much for showing up today and for being here to enjoy our message. And we hope you have a great week ahead. We're going to be here again next week. So we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
You think she's a good girl, but once you get to know her, you realize she's everything. She's crazy, she's funny, she's honest, and you'll never know what she'll do next.